Guys, just make sure that you added that note there at the top. Okay, that's very important. So hire purchase, always simple interest. In real life, like just in what you might have heard, I don't think you would have heard the words hire purchase before. Normally it's just they say you can buy it on credit or whatever. So TVs often people buy on credit, sometimes clothes, if your parents or whoever maybe have like a clothing account, that is all hire purchase actually, right? Where you take the item home, but you are paying it off by making monthly installments. Okay, it's a very common thing. So here they're talking about a cell phone and it costs 18,000 Rand. Now guys, this cash price, as they're calling it, right? The amount that if you went into the shop and you had the money and you bought it for that price, that is our P value always. Okay, so P for hire purchase, does that make sense? It's the original amount, right? It's what you would pay for it if you just went into the shop and you bought it now. Okay, so that 18,000 Rand is our P value. But it is only our P value if there is no deposit. Okay, so you need to be very careful when you're reading through these questions. Some of these questions have no mention of a deposit. Some questions do have a mention of deposit. Okay, you've obviously written it down, so you would have seen that in this question, there is a 10% deposit that you pay up front. Now, the reason why they do that is because sometimes people take this cell phone, for example, and then they just never make the payments, right? They just go home, they sign a contract, and the shop can never find them again. That's also very common. So that deposit is almost like a little backup plan so that they get something at least for the item. Okay, don't do that. It's not good to do that. You can get blacklisted, but people do that. Okay, so for this, we need to pay a 10% deposit. Now, guys, the important thing about a deposit, I'm just going to highlight that. The important thing about the deposit is that this has nothing to do with interest, right? So far, we've spoken about simple interest and compound interest. We've added interest to all the amounts so far, but a deposit has nothing to do with interest. Nothing to do with interest. So guys, important in this section is reading for comprehension, right? If you're just kind of skimming through the question very quickly, you might think that that 10% is the interest rate, but it's not, right? That is the deposit. Now, what is a deposit? It's if you've taken your cash price, you guys do accounting now, hey? EMS, this year, yes? So you have your cash price, which is 18,000 Rand, and you're going to calculate 10% of that cash price. That is your deposit. Okay, so did you guys copy down that first question? Calculate number 1, the value of the deposit. So write that question down, please, if you haven't already. So this deposit is going to be, what percentage did they tell us is the deposit? 10%. So 10 over 100 of means that you are timesing it. And what was the cash price of the cell phone? 18,000. Okay, that is the calculation that you do to get the deposit amount, always. It's as simple as that. You don't use the interest formula, simple compound interest, when you're working with the deposit. Okay, it's just the percentage that they've given you, and you multiply it by the cash price. Okay, now you can obviously work this out on the calculator, or you can just chop off one of those zeros there. The deposit on this cell phone is 1,800 Rand. Okay, so you can't just take this phone. You actually would have to pay 1,800 Rand, and then you can take it. Okay, and then make payments afterwards. All right, so that's question 1, value of the deposit. Question 2, they now want us to give them the loan amount. Now guys, if they're asking for the loan amount, this is actually the P value. This is going to be our P value. If you just think of all the work that we've done so far, right? If you go to a bank and they give you a loan of 10,000 Rand, that is your P value, right? Now what's happening is this shop, let's say it's Vodacom or whatever, they are giving you a phone to the value of 18,000 Rand. You've only paid them 1,800 Rand. You owe them the difference still. Does that make sense? Right? So the p-value is going to be cash. Let me actually put it like this. P equals cash price minus deposit. Do you agree that if you've already paid them 1,800 Rand, you don't owe them 1,800 Rand? Or that 1,800, you don't owe them anymore. Right? But of the 18,000, you owe them the rest. Okay, so we're going to say 18,000, that was the cash price of the phone, minus your deposit of 1,800. So that was, or that is, 16,200 Rand. Okay, does that make sense? That's basically an amount of money in the sense that this shop is giving us, right? And we have to pay back. So this is now our P value. We owe the shop that much money. Okay. Now for number 3, this is now where we're going to do multiple steps. The value of the monthly installments, and it is usually monthly installments for any hire purchase thing. A nice example of this is like a cell phone contract, right? Where you get the phone and then you also get data or whatever. But whoever needs to make monthly payments, right? And it's normally the same amount every month, unless you use more data or whatever. We're not going to get into all of those details, but this is like the monthly payment that you have to make. Now guys, these installments are always the same amount. Always the same amount. So you pay the same amount every month. And what we're going to do, remember the shop has lost a whole phone, 18,000 Rand worth, but they only currently have 1,800 Rand. So they are actually going to charge you interest on the money that you still owe them, right? So you are not only going to pay back 16,200 Rand, you are going to have to pay back 16,200 Rand and 12% worth of interest for each year, right? How long are we taking to pay this phone off? 2 years. Okay, so we still have to include that as well, guys. So now the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to use our A equals P bracket 1 plus I times N formula. And we're going to first calculate what we must actually pay back. Okay, we're not just going to pay back the 16,200 Rand. They're going to charge us interest as well. All right, so step 1 here is going to be to calculate A. That is the first step. Since this is hire purchase, we are using the simple interest formula. Again, they didn't say that in the question, but you have to know that. What is my P value? What do we actually owe this shop? Do we owe them the whole 18,000 Rand? No. How much do we owe them?
16.
Good, thank you. 16,200. Bracket 1 plus the interest rate of the loan, right? The hire purchase interest rate was 12%. Times, we're paying this phone off or over 2 years. Okay, I've worked it out there quickly. 20,088 Rand. That is what we actually have to pay them back. But guys, are we paying that back all in one payment after 2 years, or what's happening here? What are they saying in the question? The balance must be paid back in equal monthly installments. So at the end of each month, you are going to make the same payment. Now, how many months are there in 2 years? 24. So we need to take this total amount that we are, what? Never mind. We're going to take this total amount of money that we have to pay back and we're going to divide it by 24. That's how many months there are in 2 years. Okay, so step 2 is going to be divide A by number of months. And it obviously depends on how many years they told you in the question, right? If they said 3 years, you're going to divide it by 36, whatever, it depends. For this question, it was 2 years. So we're going to say, let's just write installment equals 20,088 Rand divided by 24. And this 24 is 2 times 12. You can write 2 times 12 also if you want to. That's perfectly fine. And then type it into the calculator like that. And if you work this out, you are going to get 837 Rand per month. Right, so for 2 years, every month, you paid 1,800 Rand right at the beginning, right? And then also for 2 years, every month, you must pay 837 Rand. Okay, our time is up now, so we'll do number 4 tomorrow. I'm not going to give you homework today. We are going to finish this up tomorrow, and then we're going to work on that worksheet. Okay, so make sure that you bring a calculator tomorrow, please. If you don't have one, you need to make a plan by then or come ask